Hi there, welcome to Kneppy Invest and welcome to your stock picks for 2025. I requested from you a group of companies that you think will do well in this particular year. You have spoken, I've added up all the companies and I've come up with 22 stock picks, your favorite stock picks for 2025. Now, this task can be quite difficult because over a 1 year period, many things can go right or wrong for a company that won't affect that same company over a 5 to 10 year period. So it can be just sentiment. Sentiment can drive a share price up or down significantly for one company in 1 year. So this is a tough task. However, you performed wonderfully well in 2024. So we're going to see if you can replicate that again in 2025. So what I'm going to do in today's video, I'll just go through some of the facts and a massive increase from last year, the amount of picks, the amount of viewers picking companies, that sort of thing. So I'll go through some of the facts fairly quickly, and then we'll get into the 22 companies you have chosen for 2025. So let's get stuck into it. But first of all, a few facts of your picks. So 80 viewers chose companies. Last year it was only 48. So a pretty big increase from last year. 316 picks. Last year it was only 175. You'll notice 238 stocks were chosen. Last year, 145. So I'm not going to include every single 238 companies to see how you have performed. So I needed some rules around this. Now, last year, any company that was chosen twice made it into the last 23 companies. This year, that would have worked because we had 68 companies that had more than one pick. So I had to sort of decrease the amount of companies, and it was natural to select only those companies that had more than two picks, so 3 or more. And that came down to 22 companies, which fits in between to the sort of standard portfolio of between 20 and 25 companies. So that's how I chose the 22 companies that you chose as a collective group. Highly health focused. You'll be able to see that within the 22 stock, but health does seem to be a bit of a favorite sector in 2025. And I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit of a fan around health companies, particularly those companies that are moving into selling things, selling products. We have quite a few companies on the ASX getting into that realm right now, or even companies that have already moved into selling products. And we have seen some significant growth over the last few years in regards to those companies. In fact, one of those companies that has seen significant growth in the revenue over the last few years did make it into the 22 stocks. Okay. What else? No, this is last year. So a stark difference between this year and last year. Last year, there was one company chosen 6 times. We had numerous companies that were chosen more than 6 times. Last year, only 5 companies were chosen 3 times and 17 companies chosen twice. So if you add up that, we had 23 companies chosen last year, and those 23 companies all had more than one pick. This year, a little bit different. You got to see that when we go through your stock picks. So let's do that right now. Here are your 22 companies for 2025, starting from the most popular company and then winding down all the way down to your least popular companies. But even those least popular companies still had 3 viewers choosing those companies. Okay, so coming in at number 1, the most popular company, Mesoblast. I think this is just timing. If Mesoblast released their FDA approval maybe 1 month ago, 2 months ago, I don't think this company would have been as popular. In fact, if they release that FDA approval next week, I don't think Mesoblast would have made it into this particular list. So this is more to timing than anything else. But 8 of you chose Mesoblast. Now we go on to those 2 companies that almost made it to number 8 or to number 1 or joint number 1, and those 2 companies coming on with 7 picks, Orthocell and Merits. And notice already a bit of a health tinge to these selections. I would also want to fully disclose that I am trading all 3 of these companies. I'm trading Mesoblast, I'm trading Orthocell. I'm also trading Demerits. I don't own any of these companies for the long term. You'll probably also see a similar theme. There is a bit of a story stock tinge to these 22 companies. So that could be a good thing or a bad thing. I think over a short term, choosing story stocks is not a bad thing, but for the long term, I do prefer to own companies that are not story stocks. So keep that in the back of your mind as well. Now on to those companies are chosen by 6 of you. Two companies, a bit of a surprise here. Playside Studios. Now the other 3 companies, Mesoblast, Demerits, and also those were not a surprise. Playside Studios was a bit of a surprise. Now I think one of the reasons behind that is because share price has gone down a fair bit, and there is some pretty good upside for Playside Studios. I just did not think this company was that popular among viewers of this channel. Botanics Pharmaceuticals. This is the company I don't know a lot about, but I do, if I remember correctly, they are moving towards production, not production as a mining company, but they are moving towards selling things, and that is or can be an inflection point. So I think that's one of the reasons why Botanics Pharmaceuticals was chosen by 6 of you. Now on to those companies that were chosen by 5 of you. A fair few more here. So instead of 2, I think there was about 5 companies that were chosen 5 times. And the first 2, CSL and Mineral Resources. Now, CSL is a company I own, and more than likely it will be a company I own for as long as possible. So this is the first time we have seen a high-quality company. I'm trying to think if there's any other high-quality companies in these 22 companies, but definitely CSL is a high-quality company. The question becomes, because the share price has been going sideways for the last 4 or 5 years, is 2025 the year that CSL finally breaks out from the trading range? So an interesting pick from 5 of you, CSL. I can definitely understand Mineral Resources. Share price has dropped a lot in the past year and a bit. And I think with the share price around about $33, there is some pretty good upside, particularly if we start to see lithium and iron ore prices starting to climb high up. Some more companies that were chosen 5 times include Telix Pharmaceuticals and Clinuvel. So it's just interesting here. So Telix is a company I do own or will own or have owned for the long term. I think there is tremendous growth prospects for this company. It is another company that I would consider probably not high quality just yet, but it's on the precipice of being a high quality company. They're only selling one product at this point in time, and that is my one thing I wouldn't say I'm concerned about, but that is one thing you have to be mindful of. They are only selling one product, but wow, the revenue growth for Telix over the last 2 years has been phenomenal, and the chart is absolutely top-notch right now. Clinuvel, on the other hand, another company that is only selling one company, and again, a bit of a health sector theme right here. Clinuvel share price has dropped a lot, and it's getting to the point where the further share price drops, the more attractive this company becomes just based off valuation. And I keep looking at Clinuvel going, oh, this company is looking really cheap because of the growth the company has experienced and the potential for growth in the future. So I think this was just a value pick. Clinuvel chosen 5 times. And finally, the other company chosen 5 times was DroneShield. Not a healthcare company, but I suppose if people are affected with drone strikes, they can be considered healthcare. Anyway, I suppose, yeah, they are protecting people from needing healthcare stuff. So anyway, DroneShield, chosen 5 times. And I think this is definitely another one where the share price has pulled back a lot. Has pulled back a lot over the past 6 months. I forget exactly when the share price high was, but I think that's why people have chosen DroneShield, just because the share price has retracted a lot and there is some pretty good upside moving forward for DroneShield at these current levels. Now on to those companies chosen 4 times. I think it was about 7. No, maybe that was companies chosen 3 times. Maybe 5 companies chosen 4 times. Let's have a look. Okay. Brain Chip. Well, it's got brain in it, so health. But Brain Chip is not a healthcare company. And I think this is definitely a story stock. In fact, you can see definitely among these group of companies, story stocks, Brain Chip is still a story stock. They're not selling much, if anything at all. They have released a few interesting announcements in the last month, and I do think this company is positioned much better than it was when the valuation was 3 times higher than it is now. Still, the valuation is quite high. I think 500 to 600 million. So a lot of things have to go right for BrainChip, but the chart is starting to look a little bit more interesting, and we are starting to see a little bit more volume. And also those announcements are more intriguing. So I can definitely see why people are drawn a little bit more towards BrainChip right now than they were 3 or 4 months ago. And 4D Medical is another one of these healthcare companies that I think is on the precipice of significant growth in revenue. That could happen in the next year, or maybe 2 years from now, maybe 3 years, but definitely a company to keep on your radar. Another company, or a few more companies chosen 4 times include another healthcare company. There you go. Paradigm Pharmaceuticals. This is another company I am trading right now for full disclosure purposes. And I definitely can understand why people are interested in that company, but still a bit of a story stock. But it is moving towards becoming a non-story stock. I'm not sure how long that will take. And Novonix, I still consider Novonix a story stock. The first time I looked at Novonix was back in 2020. Yeah, it would have been late 2020, probably September 2020. That's 4 years ago, over 4 years ago, and their revenue hasn't increased much at all. So it's still a story stock at this point in time. Share price has decreased significantly. They did a cover raising, when was that? About a month ago. Share price did pull back a little bit, but I definitely can understand why people are drawn to Novonix because of the space they're in. And another company that was chosen 4 times is Sigma Healthcare. Now, you might notice here, I have Chemist Warehouse. That is why people have chosen this company. It's not Sigma Healthcare, it's Chemist Warehouse. Now, I do have questions about this particular takeover. I call it a reverse takeover. How I do like Chemist Warehouse. I think this is definitely has a potential to be a high quality company if it's not already there. It's just valuation around this particular merger, we'll call it now, how valued or how overvalued it is, or potentially overvalued it is. So I'm not sure. I'm just not sure with Chemist Warehouse, but definitely this is a company I would like to own eventually because I do think it's a high quality company. Now to those companies chosen 3 times, and I believe, if I remember correctly, 7 of these companies. Okay, AccuSensus, interesting. This is one I've been looking at lately as a trade. They have released a few interesting contract wins. Share price has moved up. Share price in the last week has pulled back a little bit, and that's why I became a little bit more interested, just above $1. So AccuSensus chosen 3 times. Echo IQ, I know very little about this company. I'll be honest with you. I have seen it raise a few times, interesting announcements, that sort of thing, but I haven't delved deeply into Echo IQ. I'm assuming it's another healthcare company. I could be absolutely wrong with that. It's just because it's got IQ. So I'm thinking head, mind, something like that. But I have no idea what Echo IQ do. So this is definitely one company I want to do a little bit of research on. Not sure where they are in terms of the story. This could be a story stock, or maybe they have just started selling something. I don't know. But 3 of you like this company for 2025. Moving on to the next few companies. Boss Energy. Uranium. So a few of you are bullish on uranium in 2025. There is a bit of a uranium, I suppose, bullishness out there. Still a bit of bullishness out there, even though uranium prices have pulled back. And maybe that's why 3 of you have chosen Boss Energy, because uranium prices have pulled back, Boss Energy price has pulled back, and you think this is a good time to take a position in not only Boss Energy, but a few other uranium companies out there. Now on to probably the biggest surprise, Transurban. This was a bit of a shock when 3 of you chose this one. And the main reason is I don't expect much capital growth with Transurban. It's an infrastructure company. You wouldn't see much growth in those sort of companies. This is a weird one for me because I just don't see significant capital growth. I would even say Transurban is more of a defensive company, and maybe that's why you chose it. You expect a massive downturn in 2025, and Transurban could be just a defensive position. I don't know. Transurban was probably the biggest prize out of these group of companies. Probably. Moving on to the next 2 companies. Dicker Data. I'm thinking those who chose it see value. Share price has dropped a lot. Chart looks pretty bad right now. So I think this is more of a value pick. Share price has dropped, and now is the time to think about buying Dicker Data. That's what I think they're thinking in choosing this company. Trig Minerals. No idea about this company. Absolutely no idea. In fact, the ticker code is TMG, and I had to look up what the company is. Rare earths, niobium, antimony. I have no idea about Trig Minerals, but three of you like this company enough in 2025 to choose it. And finally, I have to move my camera over the other side. There we go. Finally, we have tours. By the way, I'm training tours right now, building better connections in Singapore. And I think maybe one of the reasons why this company was chosen, chart looks pretty good, share price in a beautiful uptrend. We also have David Teo in charge of this company, growing in Singapore. Maybe they're thinking of expanding, I don't know. But that is the last company among the 22. So an interesting group of companies, 22 companies. One massive surprise, that was Transurban. I suppose Trig Minerals was a bit of a surprise because I don't know much about that company. But to be honest with you, a lot of these other companies were not surprises because there's a lot of positive sentiment behind these companies, particularly these healthcare companies right now. And maybe I have been a little bit of an influence, or maybe the reason some of you have been drawn to my videos is because I'm drawn to some of these companies, like Demerix, Orthocell, Mesoblast, Telix Pharmaceuticals, Clinivel. I have been drawn to these healthcare companies because I do think this is going to be a fascinating space on the ASX over the next few years, even longer than that. I'm definitely more drawn to healthcare companies than mining companies. I think these are the sort of companies that will or could become high quality companies in the future. And I cannot say the same thing about mining companies. Mining companies, by default, cannot be high quality companies because they're price takers. A healthcare company, if they have a product that no one else has, is a price maker. They can sell their thing for whatever they want. And we're seeing that with healthcare companies. They can charge whatever they want. And that is one of the reasons I'm drawn to healthcare over mining is just because they're price makers instead of price takers. Okay, I think that's all I have for today's video. These are your stock picks for 2025. What do you think? A lot of story stocks in there, a lot of healthcare companies, a little bit too much story stocks. But again, remember, this is for a 1 year period. And right now, there's a fair bit of positive sentiment behind many of these companies. And I could definitely see how some of these companies could go on massive runs in 2025. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section of this particular video. Otherwise, I'm not a financial advisor. If you need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.